Thank you very much. At the outset, let me say that we need to push for a legally binding deal in Copenhagen, one that is strong enough and ambitious enough to tackle the challenge of climate change, while at the same time being fair and just to developing countries. And I see that very much as the aim of the European Parliament resolution on an EU strategy for Copenhagen, which I have co-authored on behalf of this group, along with the people from all of the other political groups here in the Parliament. Industrialised countries must commit themselves to at least a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2020 and an 80 to 95% reduction by 2050 compared to the 1990 levels. The EU must commit itself to at least €30 billion per year in climate funding to developing countries, and that needs to be over and above overseas developing aid. And we in GUI NGL believe that the estimates that we have heard for an overall global figure for climate measures in developing countries estimated to be an annual €120 billion required. So in terms of the measures that need to be taken by industrialised countries in terms of reducing emissions, the kind of financing and technical help that needs to be there in order for the developing countries either to adapt to what is already inevitable in terms of climate change, or for the emerging economies to develop in a cleaner way and to take the kind of steps that we are asking them, and the partners in the trying to negotiate a Copenhagen deal are asking them. It's very, very clear that we need to step up to the mark here. And unfortunately, there are some in Europe that are trying to use and are keen to use the reluctance of other countries to take the necessary steps in order to argue that that means that the EU should drag its feet. That is an extremely short-sighted stance to take, because the climate will not wait for inaction, and the costs of inaction we know will be far greater than the cost of taking action. Developing countries and the most vulnerable and the poorest countries will be the ones that suffer most, but we in Europe will also not to be immune to the effects of climate change, and therefore it is in our own interests, as well as in the interests of the EU as an area of the world that has to act responsibly and justly to take the necessary measures. And on the other hand, it's also clear that ambitious climate measures would actually contribute to solving the economic difficulties, would secure new jobs, would secure social cohesion in both developed and developing countries. So regardless of the outcome of Copenhagen, and I repeat, we must fight in Copenhagen for a legally binding deal, but regardless of the outcome of Copenhagen talks, the EU must continue to set and implement binding effective targets for emissions reductions, to develop new cleaner technologies, and to commit itself to climate justice in order to ensure that developing countries are not left to reap what the developed world has sown. Thank you.